Frame 4 just underway then between Matthew Stevens and David Morris. These two playing for a place in the semi-finals of the Wuxi Classic Snooker. Morris having won the last 2 frames to edge in front. And the world number 145 looking very impressive in the early stages here. Stevens certainly won't be panicking though, vastly experienced professional that he is. One loose safety in the previous frame proved costly. Well, he's not played that very well. That's another loose safety from Stevens. He hasn't got a red past the centre pocket. This is cuttable by Morris. Getting position will be the problem for him. Elected to go for the long red to the top end of the table. Missed it by some distance, and he's left this red. The problem for Morris there was that had he taken it into left centre, the cue ball was heading into the pack of reds. No guarantee of position. Stevens using what looks like a very weather-beaten extension on his cue here to get the extra leverage.
Might play a cannon into something here, unless you can get enough action on the white just to avoid the pack. There's a red, goes to the left corner. Might just stun up 2 cushions here. He's gone for the cannon. No, 2 cushions it is. Slow down. Just got to trace aside. He might have gone too far.
6.
This table has picked up over the last couple of days. It's lightning fast now. It's so responsive. Just a trace of side on the cue ball, and you've lost position. And there you go.
Barely recognisable from the conditions on the first couple of days.
They're playing beautifully now, Phil, aren't they?
Just the safety then for Stevens. Wanted to slip past the brown ideally, but he's left nothing.
If that red wasn't there on the top cushion, there would have been a path back to bulk, but I think that's stopping that plan. We'll have to find another way. I'm not sure whether there's too many options here either. Well, down the left-hand side, I think, the tail as we look. Ooh, caught the second red. That's disastrous. Well, that could prove to be very costly indeed. It was a good return safety by Matthew Stevens, but there was a chance to get back to the baulk area there for David. Just caught the red all wrong.
Six. Seven.
Coming back to the tables as well, Phil, you know, with the heat underneath and everything drying out, it's a constant brushing and ironing as well. It's like just nipping the greens at Augusta, isn't it?
Yes, we talked about how responsive these cloths are, where conditions are at the optimum, and that's just how the modern players like it.
Well, just look at that. He's hardly struck that. Beautiful stroke on the ball, and you know that's what the boys like to do. They like to get through the cue ball with, you know, minimum effort and get maximum effect.
I guess the one thing you could say, Mike, if you were being picky, is that arguably less skill required now in terms of the cue power that you would have needed back in, say, the 1980s when conditions were heavier, the cloths weren't as responsive, and it was the players who had the ability to really get into the reds and split them asunder that prospered more. And perhaps that's an element of the game which isn't quite so necessary now.
Yeah, I bought the Charles Atlas book, you know, just to build myself up, really.
I remember John Parrott saying to me, though, and I think I'm right in saying that 7 of John's 9 ranking titles came abroad. And he said part of the reason why he had so much success overseas in ranking events compared with the UK, and of course he won the world in the UK here, so he did it in the UK as well. But he felt that because conditions were markedly heavier when he played abroad, you needed that extra cue power to really get the reds open, and that was one of his great strengths.
Yeah, well, I think me and John had similar styles, actually, because we used to punch the ball around rather than a lot of these lads sort of stroke them, like the Ronnies and the Stephen Hendrys and all that sort of thing. But definitely we used to sort of punch into the ball. And I was, because I started, you know, when I was a young kid with the old crystallite balls, and it was damp conditions, so you needed to have a pretty good cue action to push the balls around the table. I think all of the old stars started that way, but the new stars, they start in these conditions straight away, because invariably, oh, you see the white going there, invariably the tables are done up for them at the club, either by the parents or by the club owners or by the sponsors, whatever. So they're playing on these conditions automatically now, whereas in the olden days you had to sort of play on heavier cloths with heavier balls. So I understand what you're saying, but say me and John probably had some, you know, we did have quite similar styles actually in getting through the ball. But when you see these lads just stroke the balls around, I mean, there's nobody better than Ronnie when he's putting it together. You know, Stephen Hendry was the same. Mark Williams, they just love the super fast cloth, so you can just touch them. Nice touch there. But they do take getting used to.
Well, I guess the other thing about these modern tables, Mike, is that the nap is less important than it used to be. Because back in the day, when the cloths were that little bit thicker, you could really tell when you were playing against the nap, couldn't you? I mean, the ball would visibly deviate, less so now.
Yes, into the middles especially. You'd aim for the back half of the pocket and it'd come back into the middle. They hardly move offline these days. You're playing into the centre of the pocket all of the time, knowing that they're not going to move.
So there have been